So the first article that I found, it starts off by describing what an epidemic is. And so a lot of times what you'll hear is that something's an epidemic, but really, what is that? And so it defines it as a rapid spread, growth, or development. So according to the World Health Organization, about 300 million people worldwide are obese, and another 750 million are overweight. And that number has only been rising in recent years. So I think it is appropriate to call it an epidemic.
Okay.
And another study found that if a mother is heavy, there's a 75% chance that her child will be heavy too. So essentially, there's genetic factors that can lead to obesity, but it's not necessarily just genetics. And one of the reasons why obesity has gone up is, according to this study, the amount of physical exercise in the workplace has gone down in recent years. So people are they're staying at their seats for longer. They're looking at a computer instead of walking around. So experts contribute this to like the increase.
Okay.
So
yeah, a lot of people in America tend to work in like office settings, so they're not moving around as much unless they're walking over to the water cooler, or they're mostly just sitting at their desks making phone calls and typing away at their computers.
I agree with that. I have a different approach, however. I have noticed that a lot of these people, a lot of these children, are obese because their parents are obese. I have a statistic here from the CDC that says an overweight 3-year-old child is nearly 8 times as likely to become an overweight young adult, typically developing 3 years old, and it just is a constant cycle. So either it's because we're more sedentary, or it's because we've just started this roller coaster where we have heavier parents and we become heavier, and then we just contribute to it. So I think there's multiple factors, but maybe the sedentary one's not just completely it.
Regardless of the factors, though, I think that the fact that over 30% of 30% of children right now are overweight or obese, which is seriously like a wake-up call, huge issue.
Totally.
It's a big problem. It's not only adults anymore, it's starting to pass on to the kids, like you said, because the adults with the unhealthy eating habits and bad exercising habits, they're passing it on to the kids and the younger generation, which puts them at worse
odds.
At worse risk for a lot of different diseases, like cardiovascular diseases, heart disease, different types of cancer, type 2 diabetes, all types of nasty diseases that can end up killing you at a really young age.
No, sure. I think definitely the idea of childhood obesity is much more scary because children are much, I don't know how to say this exactly, they're much more affectable. We can
they're much more impressionable.
Much more vulnerable, and we see that. But it is not a very separate issue from the phenomenon in adults. I mean, we have just as many adults that are overweight and heavy as children.
I think that the problem that between those two, with adults and children, adults generally know what they're eating, they know the health risks, and they know what they're doing to themselves. I would say until I was at least a teenager, I didn't really understand what drinking soda every day would do to me, and I didn't understand why I couldn't have a soda every dinner. Because you don't understand, no matter how many health classes you take, as when you're in elementary school, you know that it's bad for you, but you don't see firsthand what happens. And then as you grow up, you start to see people become obese because they have the unhealthy eating habits. They aren't understanding that they need to eat healthier. So a lot of people, like when you're a younger age, you're not going to realize what it's going to do to you if you keep eating all those foods.
Sure. That's definitely the nature of the problem. I agree with that.
And to add on to that a little bit, I think besides like the health reasons, it's also like it's a lot worse for a child to be obese than like an adult, because I mean, I don't know, I have some studies here, but it's like a child as we said, they're more vulnerable. They're not. They can't really deal with like hurt feelings as well as an adult can.
No, sure. And I think another thing too is they're in their developing stage, and I can understand why it would be a little bit more of an issue for a child than an adult. I think it's just as important, but I think there's also multiple contributors. What else? Do you have anything else to contribute to the nature of the problem?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're saying a lot of it's, parents and stuff like that, but I think a lot of it comes down to cost because, America's just in a lot of poverty right now. And with new, like, FDA regulations and stuff, it's cheaper to get junk food and unhealthy food than it is to get organic or,
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a lot cheaper if you want to go to McDonald's and get something off the dollar menu and get a soda. It's a lot cheaper to do that than to go to a healthier place and choose a healthier choice. And
at least that definitely contributes to the problem. I
because
agree.
America's been in a recession for a while now.
No, yeah.
And so
sure, they have a lot. I think I have some other points here from the CDC again. Sugary drinks and less healthy foods are available on campus. Around 55 million school-age children are enrolled in schools across the United States, and students have heavy access to sugary drinks and less healthy foods. So I think that's a huge contributor. Advertising to have to do with less healthy foods too. I remember from a video, and I can cite the video. It's the one with Super Size Me.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking about campaign contributions when it came to the 5 a day program, 5 fruits and vegetables a day, and the budget compared to McDonald's. And I think the 5 a day program had $1 million advertising budget compared to McDonald's that had, I believe, a $650 million budget. So just that alone is a huge factor. But that affects everyone. I think childhood obesity, maybe children are more susceptible, but I think adults are just as susceptible to it as well. And especially because of the recession. So again, I'm not exactly sure which one's more intense. And also the variation of leisure activities. A lot of kids are not as active. I think that's a big contributor too.
I think with what you said about McDonald's, I think all the fast food restaurants, since we were, kind of talking about them, McDonald's, they just brought Go-Gurt in for kids' meals. Mm-hmm. So they're doing a lot to sway how you think about going to McDonald's or Dairy Queen or Burger King or wherever. They let you know that they have all this healthy stuff. Like, I work at Dairy Queen. A kid's vanilla ice cream cone has less calories than a Slim Fast bar. But when you go to those places, you see all the other stuff on the menu. So, I mean, it's...
Exactly. Like, I remember when McDonald's was first starting to get, apples and stuff and juice in their meals rather than sodas.
Yeah.
And it doesn't... I mean, if you're going to try and get them into restaurants like that to eat healthier, it's not going to work because eventually they're going to just give in to the fact that there's,
they're at McDonald's.
Really good looking. Yeah, they're at McDonald's. You don't go to McDonald's to eat healthy.
Exactly.
You go because you want to pig out and you want to get some.
Everybody has.
We
have cravings now. You guys are just there.
We were just there.
No, sure. I think that we're in more of an adult phase now, and that's how I can see it being an adult and child problem.
Yeah, this is the phase when you need to start watching your weight. The freshman 15 looms over everyone because no one wants to gain that 15 pounds or maybe even more.
Definitely more an adult thing than a children thing, though, because children are not focused on the freshman.
Self-esteem is a lot bigger as a teenager, as a young adult, than it is as a child. I mean, I have an article right here that has a lot of effects on self-esteem on children, but it seems like the way that they worded it here, it seems that they don't understand why they're feeling like this when they're younger. But when you get older, you understand why. So you know, the causes of it. You know that it's you don't like your self-image, so that's why you're feeling like that. But when you're a child, you don't understand why you're feeling the way that you're feeling, and you don't understand why you're gaining weight and stuff like that. So it hurts in a lot of ways because it's a cycle.
And also, there's the rate of overweight and obese children has gone up so much that it almost seems normal
Yeah.
You know, because
that is one of the things that I was going to talk about too.
Yeah, me too.
Because I mean, you want to fit in, you want to be, you know, especially at a young age, you want to be like your friends. You know?
I don't know if it's more like that, but you know, when I was thinking about this, and I was again thinking that childhood obesity really isn't as big of an issue as other things. How can we possibly judge? So let's say the norm is now to be heavier.
Right.
How can we possibly justify in a society creating averages and looking at it statistically? If everybody's a certain way, that has to be the new healthy. I understand that there's definitely these two extremes. You can be this extremely fit person, or you can be extremely out of shape. But as the trend starts to shift, as the box and whisker plot starts to move over, how can we say that these people are not necessarily the new norm and the new healthy?
Yeah.
That's my view as the devil's advocate, but I don't know. Whatever you guys think.
I have a statistic here. It says that 93.5% of parents, they correctly recognize that their child was obese or overweight. That's not the problem. The problem is that 30% of these parents that recognize their child was overweight, they didn't think it was a problem. So that's adding fuel to the fact that it's starting to become norm to be overweight, and that's how it's having a negative effect on the nation. You know, parents are a cause of it, but they're also an effect of it, because they're a cause because they start their child on unhealthy unhealthy exercising habits and unhealthy eating habits, which can get their child to be overweight in a lot of cases. But they're also an effect because they're seeing that all these other overweight children, they see that and they think that it's a norm, so they think that it's okay. They think that it's not a huge problem that their child's overweight because every other child's overweight. So it's kind of both a cause and effect, the parents.
Well, that's a great segue into possible solutions.
Yeah.
Does anybody want to start that off? Anybody have some solutions to dealing with childhood obesity?
Yeah, I read this article from National Geographic. It was kind of interesting. They did an experiment with a bunch of kids, and they had them pick up quarters from off of a table and put them into a washing machine. So the number was 33. And the groups that they did, they had a group to put 3 quarters in to the washing machine and then eat 30 M&Ms. Another group of kids, they put 30 quarters in the washing machine, ate 3 M&Ms. And the other group just put 33 quarters into the washing machine. So it's the same action as picking up an M&M and eating it, putting it in a washing machine.
Mm-hmm.
So the statistics showed that the kids that put all the quarters into the washing machine, they did it 30 minutes after they did the initial experiment. So 30 minutes after, the kids that only put quarters in the washing machine ate less M&Ms than the kids that already had eaten some. Just because they still had that same action and they felt stimulated for that time.
Addicted to it, kind of.
Yeah.
Addicted to the action. I can understand that. Sure. Anybody else? You can talk. You were kind of on a tangent about parents having influence. Do you have anything on that?
Well, I think that the fact that they're the ones that control what their kid eats until at least the age of 14, maybe.
Sure.
I would say, because a lot of the time they're the ones that are going out and buying the food. Sometimes they'll bring their kid along and they'll let their kid pick something out or something like that. But they have the jurisdiction over what their family's eating and what they're buying. So if the parent has unhealthy eating habits, then it's going to move on over to the kid.
Right.
Because the kid's they grew up eating things like that, so they're going to keep on eating things like that.
And especially as they're growing up, they're not going to have the option to be like, my mom bought pizza for dinner. I'm not going to be like, hey, can I go get a salad instead? Because just when you're a kid, you're just going to eat whatever your parents get for you.
Yeah, like a lot of people, at this age, if you didn't grow up eating vegetables, you're not going to start at the age of 18.
Exactly.
You're not going to start as a young adult most of the time because you're just repulsed by the ideas of vegetables because you still have that childlike mindset.
Right.
And I think also it's not as much of a problem when you're a younger kid and you're eating unhealthily. It doesn't have as much of a physical effect yet as it does a mental effect.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's when it's taken to an extreme as a child, that's when it has a real physical effect. But when you're a child, you have a good metabolism and you still are going to burn calories a lot quicker than a young adult would. So if you're eating a lot of crappy food as a kid, then it's not going to have as much of a physical effect on you as when you're older. But when you're a kid and you're eating that crappy food, you're going to think that it's okay. So when you move on, you lose your metabolism a little bit and you're still eating all that bad food, it's going to have a physical toll on you, which is it's fuel to the problem.
No, I understand
essentially.
That. So your possible solution would be to have parents change the diet or have a healthy diet, provide a healthy diet for the kid. Okay.
Absolutely.
A potential solution that I'd like to talk about is physical activity. Michelle Obama's been huge in the media in the past however many years, 6 years or so that President Obama's been president.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since 2008, when they started their presidency, since from 2007 or 2008 to 2011, the obesity rate has fallen in 19 states and other American territories, and it's only risen in 3 states. And that was a huge shift ever since Michelle Obama started her Let's Move campaign.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they took salt out of school lunches, stuff like that. And it's proving to be, it's not a huge effect. It's lowered the rate 5%, which it's not a mega awesome turnaround, but at the same time, it's significant compared to how it's been rising for the past 30 years.
I think we need to, that's definitely, like, really good that she's doing that, but I also think she shouldn't be, like, the only one doing it. I think that should...
Yeah, I think that whoever's the next president, I think that they should continue on this path of a healthier country.
So you're talking about legislative influence.
Yeah. One big thing, I had an article on this about the soda market. It's quote-unquote losing its fizz. Mm-hmm. It's basically the soda market's starting to struggle because people are starting to make healthier choices. They know that, you know, drinking a soda is a lot worse for you than drinking some water or some milk or something like that. Yeah. So I think that this type of thing is big. This is like what we need to try and not necessarily cripple, but we need to slow down the big companies that are huge in, you know, producing unhealthy foods and unhealthy drinks, sugary drinks and stuff like that. Because if we start getting these companies to struggle, they're not going to have as much advertising influence. Yeah. They're not going to have as much influence on the kids, you know. So it'll help the country in the long run. Kind of like how cigarettes, they were huge advertising, and then they found out how bad they were for you. It's a little bit similar here. Yeah. It needs to be kind of the same type of thing. Mm-hmm. You know, it needs to be major downplayed. Yeah. You can't be seeing a Coke commercial every day because it's just going to cause problems with the country.
Right. Yeah, I can understand that. Anybody else have one more? Right now we have 4 solutions.
Well, just to build on that, it's definitely a good thing that the soda market is decreasing, but I think the fast food market hasn't, I haven't seen any studies where it was declining. Mm-hmm. So, it's not just soda. Soda's definitely a big part. Like, I cut out soda like last year, but I don't know. It's.
I understand.
Yeah.
I think just going along with the solutions that we have right now, I think just standardizing what is allowed in education systems is a big one. Mm-hmm. You know, just because of, you know, like I said, Michelle Obama doing her thing. There's so many places that have switched from, you know, offering chocolates and candies in school to fruit smoothies. Mm-hmm. Switched to smaller portion size. Another example is from whole milk to skim milk. And then using deep fat fryers to vegetable oil fryers. So there's been a lot of movements like that in schools that are helping these kids see that just because you're eating healthy, it's not this gross food, you know. It's just
you think
better for you.
In the school, options are one of the most important.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, I don't know about your guys' schools, but my high school, we actually still had a soda machine that operated through the day. You know, so if someone wanted a soda, you could go get, you know, however big those bottles. Yeah, you can get those for $1. So it was even cheaper at our school than it would be at a 7-Eleven or Wawa or anything like that.
Right.
So that's as much as we're doing now to take those foods out of the school. I think that we need to do a better job. We need to crack down more on that and just totally wipe it out of schools altogether.
Yeah.
Do whatever you have to do to get that done.
I think if maybe some legislation, I think didn't New York do something like a soda tax, or they did something, they banned some sort of soda, but I think, or the big gulps, I think it was, a few years ago. But I think if another possible solution would be like putting like a tax on soda, or just to like make it a little more expensive. So instead of like $125, it's maybe like $175 or something like that, because that would probably deter soda drinking, stuff like that.
So yeah, that can fall under the legislative.
I think so too.
Yeah, definitely. Because if, like I said at the beginning, if it wasn't more expensive to get the organic food, like, even the soda, if it was more expensive to get soda and cheaper to get orange juice or whatever, people are going to start to make healthier choices, not only because they want to, but they can afford to do it. So.
That's good. Okay, do you want to move on to the next phase? You want to evaluate some of these ideas?
Sure.
I think we should. Okay, so right now we have having parents change the diet so the kids have a different diet growing up, and so they understand pros and cons of that. Physical activity, legislative influence, big company influence like Coca-Cola and McDonald's, and the in-school option, discussing how we're supposed to start this good diet in schools to make kids healthier. So we need pros and cons for each, and who wants to start off with having parents change their diet? I think you proposed that one. Do you want to give us some pros, and then we'll discuss some cons?
I think that some pros would be that it would force the kids into a healthier eating habits when they're younger, and when they're more impressionable. You can have more of a control on them. If you're growing up eating healthy foods and you know that it's good for you to eat healthy foods, you're not going to go and switch to eating bad foods for you.
Sure.
Because you don't really have a taste for it necessarily as much as you have a taste for healthy foods. So I think that's like the big pro.
I think so. I definitely think so too. I do have to say though that for a lot of parents it's very difficult for them to afford financially. According to the CDC, it's very difficult for parents to find the funding.
Yeah, because if you want to go to Walmart and get food there, you're not going to find as healthy of food. You're going to find a lot of soda, a lot of sugary snacks, stuff like that. But it's cheaper there though. So, but if you want to go to Whole Foods, it's so expensive.
Exactly.
And you can't. I couldn't. My family probably couldn't afford to shop at Whole Foods on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And I'm like upper middle class family, so it's just the fact that it's so out of reach for some families. That's one of the big problems too.
Big contributors. I definitely agree. So we agree that it would be a serious benefit if parents started their kids off on a very healthy regimen, but it would be huge. It's probably one of the best solutions if it was possible, but it's very difficult for a lot of these families to afford it, so it makes it probably more improbable.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it would also, it just sort of goes back to the convenience of McDonald's and Burger King.
Yeah.
Like, it just seems like yeah, we should definitely strive for like education, but at the same time, I don't know, maybe I'm a little cynical, but I just don't I don't think it would necessarily because fast food's so convenient. I think that's one of the things that that we need to do is fast food.
Yeah, so that goes in with the taking down the big companies idea. So I think that putting taxes on those companies would definitely be a big help in the fight against childhood obesity.
Okay. I definitely agree. There's a lot of these big companies that do have control over
the way we think.
Large markets, the way we think. I do have to say, though, that if we decide to tax Coca-Cola and we created revenue off of it, I don't know if that would be a real a wholesome solution for creating a good diet. I understand that it would maybe deter people from trying to buy a particular product, but another product will come out, and there's millions of products that people could eat, junk food related.
Right.
So I think it's good in theory. Maybe taxing based on caloric content or fat content, but it's just too much for a government to handle. I think it's a good idea, but probably not probable. Anybody else agree with me?
No, I agree.
I would say since that that's actually a good point. Since fast food's never going to be sort of an inconvenience, and there's always going to be something out. I think I would probably say one of the main ways that we could deter childhood obesity would be the increasing physical activity.
Okay.
So.
What are your thoughts on that? Why would it be beneficial?
Because I mean, I would just say there's nothing really we can do about fast food and soda. I mean, even if we deter it like a significant amount, it's still going to be there. So I would say like maybe passing legislation that would, I don't know, enforce some sort of
physical activity, gym related.
Something like keeping gym class in schools would be a good example of what you're saying. Like you know how they're so many schools have cut gym class out and just because they can't afford it. Yeah, exactly.
I do think that would be a more cost-effective option than having parents buy healthy foods. I think programs like baseball programs, football programs, sports programs are more realistic to fund than having parents shop at all natural or organic places or trying to not shop at junk food or fast food places. So I think that it's cost effective.
Yeah, and I think that physical activity needs to be put on them at a young age. So again, they can form those habits at a young age. Because I have this article here: a 12-year-old boy who is 200 pounds, he has to get his gallbladder removed because of his weight problem. And instead of, it says specifically here, instead of him, this is the surgeon writing this article, the surgeon that has to take his gallbladder, instead of him doing the hard work to lose the weight and become healthier, he's choosing surgery over that. So, I mean, if he had healthier workout habits, A, he probably wouldn't even be in that situation, and B, if he was in that situation for whatever reason, he would choose the healthier lifestyle, and he would choose to take the healthy path, try and form healthier habits, and fix his life.
Do we have any cons for physical activity whatsoever?
I think maybe from a competitive team standpoint, there's a lot of people that physically aren't, I don't know how to say it properly, but they just aren't necessarily good athletes.
There are people that just are born uncoordinated.
Yeah.
And it's not their fault. It's just the way that they are. And
so I think they need to introduce all kinds of, if they do something with physical activity, they need to introduce something where people can do it on their own as well. Stuff like P90X. I know that's like a ridiculous hardcore thing, but individual workout.
There needs to be other sources of workouts other than sports and things like that. Where people who aren't necessarily coordinated can still fit in, can still get their workout in, and have fun doing it, so that they'll keep doing it.
Right.
I can understand that. All right, we'll talk about that in a little bit if we decide that's the best option. How about legislative influence? What are benefits to that?
I think a benefit is the fact that the government has control over most of what we do.
Big picture.
Yeah, it's the big picture thing. I mean, Michelle Obama, she's done wonders in less than 6 years even, and it's just, it hasn't. She has such an effect over everyone that she can make that much of an impact in such a short period of time. So if they keep doing things like that, then it can help the problem get back to where it was.
I understand that.
And I think when a topic like obesity or something is focused on our children, obviously I don't have children, but just on children, it draws everybody's attention. President Obama's Democrat, but there's a lot of Republican people that really respect what Michelle Obama has done. When it comes to something serious like obesity, people don't care if you're...
No, I completely agree. The NoObesityAcademic.org stated that they've turned it into what is considered a war. So it's a war on obesity, and there's benefits and non-benefits to this. But when they make it an issue for everybody definitely understands it. Only thing that would subtract from that is there's a lot of collateral damage when it comes to having the government involved.
Yeah.
I would say that people feel like they're free.
Yeah, it takes away their liberties.
Yeah.
They feel that they're being, controlled too much, and they want to lash out.
Yeah.
Right.
So it might not work in that situation.
Social liberties are very important to people. So
Yeah, especially Americans.
Yeah.
all right, how about the in-school option?
Okay, so like we've kind of been talking on and off the whole discussion,
Mhm.
Michelle Obama, just stuff to where when they're at a young age, even though they've done so much, my school still, I don't know about you guys, but my school still always had pizza day.
Yeah, we always had
So-
pizza every single day.
Yeah.
Pizza,
So I mean,
burgers, all
Yeah.
types of junk food like that every day.
so I think that they should really make it, I hate to say the word requirement, but they shouldn't allow kids to pack lunch, I think. Like, obviously, you're going to have to make it affordable for kids that can't, because if you do, people pack lunch because it's cheaper than school lunches. But the point I'm trying to get at is that if it's required by the school for everyone to eat their school lunches and they serve healthy foods, everyone gets exposed to it. So, like, the example with at my school with Pizza Day, I would always pack lunch, but on Pizza Day, I'm obviously going to buy lunch and get some pizza.
Yeah.
So it kind of
I
ruins
think-
the whole point.
I think that is a great idea. I think that if everybody's eating the same food, and we could really structure a diet, I think that if everybody was really into it, it would be an awesome idea. We could definitely target kids, not necessarily target kids, but target a group of kids that need to focus on their weight. We could watch caloric content. The only thing that happens when we start to categorize people, put them in groups, watch what they're eating, watch what they're doing, is we become kind of a socialist government, and we can't do that.
Takes away
Right.
social liberties again.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think that it is a good idea, again, in theory, if everybody wanted it to be like that. But I think people are very focused on, they want to be able to bring stuff to school in a bag lunch. Also, another point, if a kid can't afford, period, to bring money to school, let's say they had a garden and they lived off their garden. I know this is not necessarily something that happens often, but people do it. They live off of their family garden and they go to school. I think, how would we ask them to pay for it?
Right.
So I think the in-school option is good in theory, and I think that it is a great place to start. I think what Michelle Obama is doing, but I don't think it's the right way to complete the task.
Right.
One thing that I have
That's a great
noticed
supporter.
over the past couple of years, I don't know if there's a direct correlation between the two, but as lunches got healthier, in the past couple of years with Michelle Obama pushing for all that, it seems like the prices have continued to go up for school lunch. Like every single year, it seems like it's another 10, 15, 20 cents for school lunch.
Right.
And so it takes away from the affordability factor, because eventually they might have a really healthy lunch, but it might be really expensive and no one's going to want to buy it.
Exactly.
And then they're going to bring their own foods and they're going to bring the cheap, unhealthy stuff. And it's just going to cause more problems again.
I think so. Okay. So we have these 5 ideas here. We have pros and cons for each of them. I can say them out loud. We're going to have to choose one of them because we're trying to solve this problem. So we're going to make a consensus here. So I'm going to say them all out loud. Do you want me to say all the pros and cons for each of them?
Yeah.
Okay. So having parents change their diet at a young age, it's good to force kids into healthier eating habits. It'll create an awesome first start for them, but it is very costly for parents, and that's probably one of the biggest issues that we have, is parents cannot afford these healthy foods. Physical activity, we consider that cost effective, great for a young age. It's reasonable. The only thing is a lot of kids are uncoordinated. They don't like competitive teams, and it's difficult for them to make time for these activities. So goods and bads for that. Legislative influence, we agreed that it would be awesome for the big picture. We mentioned Michelle Obama. You cited Michelle Obama and her 5% decrease in obesity in schools. We thought that was a great way to do it, although we decided that social liberties were infringed upon when that happened, so it's kind of wishy-washy. Big company influence, taxes on companies, that would make a lot of revenue off of it. We could increase sports programs. We could probably start funding other things to encourage kids to eat healthy, have healthier habits. but it's improbable because of the multitude of companies that are around. Goods and bads for that one as well. And the in-school option to create healthier eating habits, awesome place to start. But we agree that it probably wouldn't be as logical because we can't really force kids to eat school food.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially with, even if, I didn't mention it, even if they had allergies or something, they couldn't eat
totally.
that day. So, definitely.
All right. Does anybody have an opinion on which one we should go with?
I mean, I kind of like the physical activity.
Yeah, I think that sounded like the pros outweighed the cons on that one.
I think so too. I think it's a very good option. You think so too, Dave?
Especially if they could implement physical activity for everybody, because even the handicapped students that can't even walk, if they incorporate it so every student has their own way to do physical activity, I think it's the best option.
I think so
I think
too.
I think it's a very doable option, especially because everyone nowadays, it seems, they look up to athletes, LeBron James, people like him.
Yeah.
That I'm like,
Just LeBron James.
Just LeBron James. No, but you know what I mean. I mean, there's always those NFL Play 60 commercials now where they encourage kids to play 60 minutes, and if they see that their favorite athlete is telling them that they should go out and play, those athletes have a huge influence over them,
I think so
and
too.
they're going to want to go out and they're going to want to play for 60 minutes.
Okay, so you think that's a great option?
I think that it's a great option.
For a great solution for this. Okay, so the solution would be to have star athletes encourage
outdoor
activity.
Yeah, not even just star athletes. Even it could be actors, artists, anyone.
Just like
role models.
We saw that huge movement on smoking. I mean, how they cut out smoking completely from TV and stuff, but recently we've been seeing all these ads for people to not smoke instead of just no ads at all. There's been celebrities and everyone else, the people with the hole in their throat from smoking and just all that different stuff. I think if they really bring it to light and just, you see commercials all the time about physical activity, just kids are going to be like, what the heck, and just go out and do something.
I think so too. Anybody else have any other solutions when it comes to physical activity? Not. Okay. I think encouraging students by using stars and star athletes or role models. I think providing funds for a lot of different programs, diverse programs, so kids are interested. It's not going to just be the football and the baseball. It's going to be the lacrosse. It's going to be the tennis. It's going to be the golf. So I think there needs to be a lot of programs, money provided for a lot of different programs for kids to be part of.
I think with that, a part of the solution could be making health class and gym class like a regular part of the curriculum.
Okay.
I don't know how you guys' schools were, but my school, you only had to take 2 semesters of health class throughout your entire 4 years of high school. So only like one fall and one spring semester, and that's it.
We took 2 years of it. We took freshman year, full year, and we took senior year, full year. But the thing was, we only had it 2 days a week, I believe. We had that 2 days a week and gym 2 days a week, and then a study hall all throughout that period for both those years. So it would add up to about the same time.
Even if they implement it so it's, health one day, gym the next, still have it all 4 years and really go in depth and
we see
have a true understanding.
Yeah, we do see this. The CDC again says that we lack daily and quality physical activities in school. Kids should be getting 90% more physical activities in school than what they get now. So I think definitely by increasing physical activity in schools, making it a regular part of the schedule would be very beneficial. Okay, so we have 3 solutions right now that I think were pretty rock solid. Right now we have by using star athletes, role models, actors, anybody else, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, to encourage kids to become active. I think that's very important. I think role models have a great influence on kids. We decided to have diverse programs too, so kids can be interested in multiple things, not just the football and baseball, but a multitude of different activities for all different kinds of people too, whether or not they're handicapped. I think that's a big issue. That's an unmentioned issue. It was good for you to bring that up. And to make physical activity a regular part of school schedules, so that we have more health sciences, we have more physical activity in class. So we don't just have the two blocks with the gym for an entire 4 years, but we have gym all year long, all 4 years. So the kids get a good workout.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I think those are good.
Yeah.
I think so too.